Fairfax County Democratic Committee. And I want to welcome you. It looks like we had a little hiccup getting people in, but now people are streaming in. So that's great. I did want to take a moment, if I can, at the beginning of this meeting, just to have a brief moment of silence for the victims of the attacks in Colorado yesterday, and in Georgia last week, and for all victims of race-driven hate crimes. Thank you. Our former president sowed anti-Asian sentiment with the virus, with the xenophobia, and with hate crimes against the AAPI community on the rise. We stand with the Asian community against hate, and we'll have an opportunity later in our meeting to consider a resolution in regards to that. And of course, we had the shooting yesterday, and while we don't know the motive, we do know that the shooter used an AR-15 and purchased it with less than 1 week before using it to kill 10 people. So we've made progress here in Virginia with common sense gun reform, but there's still a lot to do here at home and also elsewhere, right, across the nation. So I am going to, I know we have a whole bunch of candidates lined up to speak and everything, and we've got people on a tight schedule. So just to kind of out of deference to the governor who has other things to do as well, I'd like to introduce the 72nd governor of Virginia and candidate to be governor again, Terry McAuliffe.
Thank you, Brian. What an honor to be with everybody at Fairfax County, my home county. It was a good sign. It took me 10 minutes to get on. They said that we were over the limit for Zoom. That's good news. Congratulations, Brian, to you and everybody in Fairfax for the great work you're doing. I'm running for governor again. I'm running on a big, bold plan. Obviously, with COVID, we've seen the destruction it has wrought all across the country. Here in Virginia, 180,000 folks have lost their job. 700,000 Virginians, no access to health care, including 100,000 children. 300,000 Black and Brown community members, no health care. We have about 260,000 Virginians right now under threat of eviction. It is time for Virginia to go to the next level, be big, be bold, build an equitable, world-class education, and rebuild our economy. I had to do this once before with sequestration, the Great Recession. We got to do it again. And we've built a huge coalition of folks. We're running on education, $2 billion investment. Virginia ranks 50th out of 50 states on average teacher pay compared to the average pay of Virginians. That's a disgrace for the 9th wealthiest state in America. We need to pay our teachers above the national average. We've got to get our 40,000 3- and 4-year-olds at risk. We need to get them pre-K. We got to get everybody access to broadband here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I've got a big, bold plan. That is why so many members of the General Assembly, mayors, county executives, community leaders across the Commonwealth have endorsed my candidacy. In Fairfax alone, I've got 3 of your state senators, 7 of your House of Delegates, and 4 of your county supervisors. But all 133 counties and cities are supporting my candidacy. Why? It's time to go big. We cannot tinker around the edges. We can't think small. We got to go big. We did it before, and now we got to take Virginia to the next level. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Governor, and good luck to you to your next meeting. I know we're in response to your ad or whatever. You know, it's the new way of campaigning where you just meeting.
More Zoom space, Brock.
we had it. I don't know what happened, but we're here now. So thank you.
Congrats. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, and let me share my screen again. And we have a number of candidates as well, but I want to get actually into just a little bit of the housekeeping before we get into that real quick. So let me share my screen again. There we go. And there, of course, is the information for Terry's campaign, terryforvirginia.com. Okay. So just really quickly, how to ask a question in this meeting. Use the Q&A feature if you have a question. This sends a meeting to Jack, our executive director, and myself, which will be monitoring throughout the meeting. If you don't want us to respond to the full committee, you can make sure you include the word private in there so that we make sure that we're not answering to everyone. You can see that at the bottom of your screen well, I guess it depends on whether you're on an iPad or a tablet or a phone or whatever else, but you look for that Q&A icon and you can send us a question. You can also send them anonymously. If you want to raise your hand, click on the raise your hand icon. It's blue if you've already raised it, and it says lower hand. So click on that if you indicate that you'd like to speak on a topic. If it's an issue where you want to speak in favor of opposition, and we need to balance time, you can also send us a question instead, and we'll put them in order. And of course, how to vote if we have a counted vote on an issue or a question, you'll get the pop-up where you can answer the yay or nay on the question, and then after voting is closed, after you vote, the window will disappear, and to get to the voting window, you might have to exit full screen mode depending on your computer or your device, and then afterwards we'll show the results. So that's hopefully everyone knows that. I know some people are new though, so there we are. So we have done the electronic meeting instructions, and now we are ready for approval of the agenda and minutes. And I would just broadly ask, are there any questions or are there any changes to the agenda or minutes? And like seeing no questions or changes, if there's no objection, the agenda and minutes will be considered approved. No, I'm seeing chat windows. Hold on. Without objection. Okay. All right, let's move on to the approval of new members. I will say, actually, just mention, I forgot to mention this, that I did move the election for recording secretary after the candidate kind of speaks at the beginning, speeches at the beginning of this meeting. So, so that was just a change from the draft agenda that was sent out to everyone earlier. New members that are proposed here. These are the members that are that have already been recommended from their districts for adoption or for acceptance as new members of FCDC. So is there actually, and I know I have this set like this or whatever, but we actually don't need a motion for this because these are members that are recommended by the districts. So I think we can just go ahead and call the question. So I don't actually, I know I have it says, is there a motion, but we're going to just go ahead and have a counted vote on new members. Oh, hold on. It says Mount Vernon is missing new members. I am using the list of members that are provided to me from the, that have been confirmed according to the assistant treasurer. And if they haven't been, I can, hold on. Okay, I just know that these are the people that have, according to what I've been told, these are the people that have been paid and approved by their districts. But I don't want to leave people out there if we need to. So do I get an objection from Maritza or seeing none? I do have Rachel Rice has her hand raised, and so go ahead, Rachel.
I move to accept the new members, and if it is applicable, add names in Mount Vernon if they were in fact recommended by their committee to this body.
Okay. Rachel, actually, while you are allowed to talk, there's a question here from Mr. Farrell that says that Liz Badley is supposed to be a full member.
She has not applied as a full member yet, nor has our district accepted her as a voting member. I am aware that she wants to move up, but we have to follow the procedures.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. And our treasurer, Nadia Golding, has another question, or has her hand raised, so go ahead, Nadia.
Yeah, I just want to say that if Mount Vernon has people that they've approved who do not qualify because they're neither waived nor paid, I don't want them to be voted in this time. So if they've qualified and they approved them, I just want to amend what Rachel's saying. So that if the people that Mount Vernon approved don't qualify according to our rules, they would not be voted in yet.
I accept the friendly amendment.
The clarification that I have from the chair of Mount Vernon is that Mount Vernon is okay from the list that is provided. So let's go ahead and vote on the new members, please. I don't know if I need to launch that, Jack, or if you can go ahead and do that. So our first test of voting, and again, as a reminder, you might need to escape full screen to access the interface to do that. There was a question too about what our membership numbers are after these folks, and I will have to get back to you. And Andrew probably could answer that question, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Is there any way that could be a running list or statistic on FCDC page that each district could have, if that makes sense?
Sure.
How many voting and how many associate per district? I think
Yeah,
that
we could probably
might be
just make that a Google Sheet or something that we can share across.
It's already in. Brian, it's already in all the thing for all the members, anyone who has access to the membership. Every district has how many they have.
I understand the districts themselves know how many they have, but beyond, they might be interested in what other districts have. So,
or members who want to know if there are open voting spots that they could move up into if they're associate members or vice versa.
Okay, well,
I think we can try that. It's just it's going to take a little bit. It'll work.
Okay, well, let's move on because I thought we would be in in candidate speeches by now, but I do think it's a good idea. So, okay, last call for votes here on before we end polling. Okay, and apparently we had one dissenter. So, but the motion carries. So we congratulations to our new members. And actually, at this point I was supposed to put in a plug, and I don't have a slide on it. But I was supposed to put a plug in for new member training. So if you, where is that? And maybe we can share the link in the chat, Jack. I'm actually looking for where the details of this are. Okay, on on April 6th at 7 p.m. we will be having an online new member training. We would love to have you if you were just elected, or if you are a new member just in general to FCDC and want to know more about FCDC as an organization. So we'd love to have you, and I think we're sharing that link in somewhere. Or fairfaxdems.org/new member training. I'm assuming it's also on our FCDC calendar where you can find all kinds of other events as well. Maggie has her hand raised, and I'm hoping it's about that. So I will allow her to talk.
Yes, thank you, Brian. That is about that. For the folks that live in the Sully district, April 6th is our committee meeting, but it's our intention to offer this training another time. So if you wanted to go to the training, but also wanted to go to the committee meeting, you won't miss out. So just to let you know. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Okay, let's move on then. Ooh, that was fun. We are now on to introduction of special guests and candidates, which we kind of already started. But our first our guest here will be Lee Carter, who is a delegate for the 89th. Did I do that right? Hopefully I did that right. And also candidate for governor. So delegate, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's the 50th district. I'm not sure where District 89 is.
I was copying and pasting, so I just
right.
I'll fix it before we get back before we go back to it, the slide.
So the 50th district is the city of Manassas and parts of Western Prince William County. And I'm grateful to have represented the people of the 50th district for the last 4 years. I'm running for governor this year because I believe that Virginia is in a state of cascading crises. Between the pre-existing crises that we had of mass incarceration, police violence, housing affordability, and rural economies in particular being eroded out from under people, we now have the new crises of COVID-19 and the economic crash that it has brought. And so we need to make sure that when we rebuild, we do so in a way that is different from the way that we got here. We need to make sure that we're building resiliency into our economy against the next crisis. And we do that by making sure that instead of spending tens, hundreds of millions of dollars every year, trying to incentivize massive corporations to come here, instead we take that money, we put it directly into the hands of working Virginians. And we say, this is the money that you can use to start your own employee-owned business. So that instead of our economy being owned by Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, our economy can be owned and operated by the people of Virginia. On criminal justice issues, the United States incarcerates more of its people than any other country in history. And I, as Virginia's next governor, will lead the way in changing that. I will work with the General Assembly to completely rethink our public safety system to make sure that it's no longer at the point of a gun and reliant upon incarceration. And even if the General Assembly doesn't cooperate with me, I promise I will reduce our prison population, even if I have to sign thousands of clemency petitions myself. I'm the only candidate in this Democratic primary who has never received a single contribution from fossil fuel companies. I'm the only one who's never received a single contribution from big banks. And that's because I'm the only one who's never accepted a contribution from any for-profit corporation or industry interest group. I've walked the walk on campaign finance for my entire time in office, and I will continue walking that walk in this campaign for governor. So I hope I can rely on your support on June 8th and then again in November to truly bring the transformative change this Commonwealth needs, to make sure that it is truly a place where wealth is common, where everyone can live and work and not have to worry about how they're going to put food on the table, how they're going to make the rent, whether or not they can afford a doctor or put their kids through college, or whether or not they're going to be discriminated against based on who they are, who they love, or who they were born to be. So again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm Lee Carter, and I hope to be your next governor.
You want to be the cat? You want to be the cat mascot? Okay.
I'm not sure who's scheduled to speak after me, or if there are any questions. I'll gladly take questions during this time, since I've still got the spotlight, apparently.
Was I talking that whole time myself without okay. Well, thanks for joining us. We have about 12 people that need to speak, so unfortunately, and business to conduct. So unfortunately, we need to move on. But thank you for joining us, delegate, and sharing your message.
Of course.
Yeah, and now I feel a bit crazy because I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm going to go a little bit out of order that I had originally, but that doesn't mean anything to you. Next, we're going to have Delegate Samira, who is also from the House of Delegates, 86, running for re-election. And go ahead. Go ahead, Delegate.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Fairfax. It's your state delegate, Samira here. Nice to see you all virtually. It's so exciting to be back. Coming just 2 years ago, we were such in a place where I think we have forgotten about. The Commonwealth has moved forward so much with times, getting us to where we are at 2021, I believe. But there's so much more to go. The idea here is that we want to go back and continue that great work. I'm a representative of a deep blue district, proud progressive, somebody who reflects the values and the shape of this district that is going forward in the direction of progressing the rest of our Commonwealth as part of this bigger team that is a Democratic House caucus. Proud to be a part of it. It's a big umbrella, but we certainly make sure that we represent the values of Northern Virginia very well. And that's what I bring to you. I bring to you a proud representative of progressing values, delivering you on healthcare as a human right, quality housing for all, making wages more livable, protecting labor and small business, environmental justice for all, abolishing the death penalty, and building a healthy democracy. There's so many more layers to it, and definitely ready to deliver more, from Medicare priced public health insurance option, paving way for universal single payer healthcare systems, comprehensively ensuring reproductive health care, fully funding developmental disability waivers, building enviro-friendly, equitable, quality, affordable middle housing, promoting walkable, bikeable, public transit-oriented living, some of the little things that we need to do on housing there, but as well as championing the authentically Virginian Green New Deal that we have. Being a part of that is my honor and pleasure in representing the future of our planet. Banning for-profit corporations from campaign givings, something I focused on a lot this past session, alongside my colleagues, repealing Jim Crow era right-to-work laws, raising the minimum wage immediately to $15, not by 2025, as it currently stands, abolishing mandatory minimums, pursuing transformational intersectional justice, banning weapons of war. That's something that we're thinking about a lot these days, of course, given what happened in Georgia and in Boulder, Colorado. But we have to do that, of course, to get us to become a safer society. My heart goes out to the victims, of course, and their families. And I want to deliver on automatically restoring voting rights and eradicating the school to prison pipeline, eliminating food insecurity, and completely funding pre-K through college. College should be part of the funding of our education system for free. It should be a right for everybody that seeks it. And of course, creating new educational pathways to high-paying jobs outside of the traditional college system. That's just a little bit. I'm certainly looking forward to continuing that great work with you all. This is the only way to do it is with your participation. This is why my district is deep blue. It's because so many of you have focused on it through the years. And it's yours. It's your values now through a strong Democrat. And I can't wait to take us all together to the next level, moving us forward in a transformation manner with quality, affordable housing, quality, affordable healthcare at the core, with a strong democracy. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks, Delegate. And I always say, I don't know why I say Samira, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to work on it. So
you're all good. I messed everybody up by introducing myself that way in the beginning. I dumbed it down, but I shouldn't have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have Holly Hazard, candidate for the House of Delegates for the 38th. Holly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brian. Many of you know about my commitment to this organization and to my community. I am present, I'm reliable, and I'm engaged. I work elections, canvassing, and phone banking for all kinds of Democrats, and I have led the World's Fair Committee in Mason District. I'm the chair of the Women's Rights Committee, and I'm an active member of the Finance Committee for FCDC, and I love this organization. You may not know that I'm an attorney. I was formerly the Senior Vice President and Chief Innovations Officer at the Humane Society of the United States. I formed the first animal rights law firm in the country, and with Doris Day, I launched a lobbying organization. I take vexing problems and I find creative solutions. I go big, I'm innovative, and I'm creative. As PTA president, for example, I led the effort to make sure that every child had 2 books every summer, not only for themselves, but also for their younger siblings. And that the cafeteria had a supply of peanut butter and bread for the kids who slipped through the school lunch program cracks. We think that with the school lunch program that every kid gets a meal, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And we made sure that in our school, every kid got a lunch. When the people in Culmore have been savaged by a lack of work and resources during COVID, I didn't just take a bag of groceries to Culmore. I emptied out my bin in my backyard with my lawn cushions, and I went up and plopped it on the street corner up by my house and started a program where we fill that bin twice a week with 10 to 20 bags of donated groceries and take them to Culmore every single week. I think big, I'm creative, and I'm innovative. And we need to build back our economy in Virginia with equity and with environmental priorities. You can read more about my priorities at www.hollyhazard.org. I do think that 12 years is enough time for anyone to leave her mark in the legislature, and it's time for innovation and for new creativity. I'm endorsed by Dan Lagana and by Candace Bennett, among others. I'm asking for your vote first at the straw poll on the 28th, because Tina Barczyk would kill me if I didn't make that pitch, and most importantly, on or before June 8th. Thank you very much, Brian, and the rest of the committee.
Thanks, Holly, and thanks for the pitch for the straw poll. But don't worry, we'll remind everyone about it again later. But thank you. Obviously, that all supports FCDC, and we're going to get everyone elected, our nominees elected. So thanks. I'm looking through the list of who I expect to be here at this current moment, and I guess I'm going to go to Jennifer Adelli next. Let me share my screen just so I can get her information on there. Hey, Jennifer, welcome.
Hey, Brian, sorry, it cut out. I did not hear you introduce me. Apologies. Hi, everyone. Jennifer Adelli. Are we good, Brian? All right, cool.
Yes,
Hi,
yeah, we're good.
Thank you so much. Tonight is the night of technical gremlins, I think. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, as always. I'm so happy to be here with FCDC. I have a lot of great updates for you this evening, so let me just get right to it. So last time I spoke with you was way back in January. It feels like a long time ago already. A lot has happened since then. So first of all, we were the first candidate in the 34th district to submit and qualify for the ballot. So I was super excited about that. And we were actually, some of you probably remember, we were the lead plaintiff on the lawsuit to make sure that the House of Delegates candidates anywhere in the state had the opportunity to get electronic signatures. And Brian, you did an awesome job creating that online ballot petition. So thank you so much. It feels like that was a long time ago, but that was so critical for all of us who were running for House of Delegates and for statewide. In other news, we also won the Dranesville District straw poll. I was so happy about that because not only is that, of course, my home district, but it overlaps with the majority of the 34th. And when you're in a primary against an incumbent, to win any straw poll is a big deal. We also started door knocking and doing lit drops. We had our first canvas launch this last Saturday, and we had a really great response. We had every single volunteer who signed up showed up, which is pretty amazing for those of you who work in campaigns. You know that that does not happen often. So we were really excited by the support that we got. And we've had a bunch of successful fundraisers and meet and greets, and we still have one coming up this month before the end of the fundraising deadline. This Friday, Candace Bennett is hosting a fundraiser for us that includes a book talk and a cocktail making class. So it's not too late to RSVP for that. The link is going to be in the chat. So let me tell you about what I'm running on and why I'm running. So as you probably know, we haven't had a primary for the House of Delegates 34th in 14 years. And while we rightly criticize the Republicans for not having a primary to nominate their statewide candidates, I'm very proud to be part of this process within our Democratic Party. So with that in mind, it's so important that we not allow fear-mongering to our own voters about having a primary to begin with. We're blue, we have the votes, we have the principles and values of the community. We also have the momentum and the volunteers and the donors. I know that we are going to win this seat in November. We're going to defend our majority, and I think we're going to pick up seats. So that means that we can actually have a serious conversation about the future of Virginia. We can have that conversation today. We don't have to wait for those conversations to come down the line. I believe that I am the candidate in this race that represents not only where the 34th district is headed, but where Virginia is headed overall. And that is a vision that is more progressive and more forward thinking. We're not just playing catch up anymore. I'm ready to not just bring us to the national average for teacher pay, which is what we hear a lot about, but we should be a leader in supporting our teachers in our schools. I'm ready to not just bring us up to par with our neighbors in protecting our climate, but we need to pass the Virginia Green New Deal. And I'm ready to not just give lip service to supporting unions, but I am ready to repeal right to work now. Now, our campaign is 100% supported by individuals, a fact I'm very proud of. I'm the only candidate in this race that does not take money from large corporations or from corporate PACs like Amazon. I have not and will not take money from Dominion Energy or other regulated utilities. I'm also the only candidate in this race that can say that. I'm ready to bring my 25 years of experience working with government and business to Richmond. As a matter of fact, 10 years ago, I started my own consulting firm working exclusively with other small businesses to bring their innovation to government. I know what it's like to run a business. I know what it's like to run a budget. I know what it's like to hire, recruit, retain, and to sell services to the government. I know what it takes for them to deliver. That type of expertise is missing in Richmond. We need people who understand how government services are delivered at the end of the process when you're legislating at the beginning. So I know that we can do even better in the General Assembly that we are doing today, and I'm ready to jump in and do that hard work. So last but not least, I'm going to steal Brian's thunder, and I'm going to plug this weekend's FCDC straw poll, and I'm going to ask for your vote. You don't have to live in the 34th to support me in that straw poll. This is a great opportunity to show that you support a more progressive style of leadership founded on that intersection of business and government that I described, no matter where you live. Thank you so much.
I don't know why I can't find my unmute anymore, but thanks, Jennifer. Next we have candidate for Lieutenant Governor and delegate from the 45th House District, Mark Levine.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for taking me at 8 o'clock. I know that's out of your normal time. I like to think most of you folks know me, or at least many of you know me. I can't see you in the room. I look forward to being with you after COVID, but I've been working in Fairfax County. I had my show, The Inside Scoop, for 20 years. Most of you know that I was a citizen activist actually decades before I ever ran for office. And I think most of you know how progressive I am. In fact, if you want to compare me to the other candidates running, of the 4 delegates running, according to the VAPLAN Index, I'm number 2 of all delegates in the House of Delegates, and my competitors are 10th, 35th, and 47th. So if you want someone very progressive, there's that, and that's based on my voting record. And most of you know that despite my very progressive voting record, and the fact that I've been a leader on issues like justice, whether it's LGBT justice or racial equality or voting rights, that I've also been able to work across the aisle with things like transparency and animal rights. I don't have time to go into all my bio because I was told to try to keep this to 3 minutes. So if you want to know more about me, go to Wikipedia or my website, levineforvirginia.com, and you can find out a lot more. What I want to do in the short time I have remaining is tell you about the job I want. Because I'm not running to be Lieutenant Governor. I'm running to do the job of Lieutenant Governor and actually expand the job. So yeah, I mean, if you want historic stuff, I'd be the first openly gay statewide elected official, the first Jewish statewide elected official, the first gay Lieutenant Governor in the history of the United States and all 50 states. But that's not why I'm running. I'm running because Lieutenant Governor is actually a very limited job description. In our Constitution, what do you do as Lieutenant Governor? You preside over the Senate for 2 months, you break ties, you check on the health of the governor from time to time, and you go home. And you'll see that our current Lieutenant Governor works as a lawyer 10 months out of the year. Our past Lieutenant Governor, Ralph Northam, was a doctor 10 months out of the year. And that is a solid 19th century model. It's the same model of the American vice president 100 years ago, where the vice president presided over the Senate, and that was it. I think we need a different model for Lieutenant Governor. I see more division in America now and in Virginia than any time in my lifetime. People are living in their silos. They're in Fox News. They're in MSNBC. We're not talking with one another. And so I've pledged in the extra 10 months I have to go to every one of Virginia's 133 localities, work with local elected officials and non-elected officials, because the best ideas come from you. And I can take those citizen ideas to the executive branch and the legislative branch. The Lieutenant Governor is the only elected office in Virginia that serves in both the executive and the legislative branches. And Don Beyer used that position, for example, to have his own legislative agenda. Well, we can do that again. It happened in the 90s. That's part of my plan. But also to work with the governor, whoever it is, and I have good relationship with the candidates running for governor, to give me some kind of special look at something. Could be internet broadband, could be paid family medical leave. But really, I think we're trying to bridge the divide. And that's something that I've spent my lifetime doing, and I hope to do as your Lieutenant Governor. If you want to find out more, come to one of my many meet and greets that I have, because this is only 3 minutes, or go to my website, levineforvirginia.com. I hope you'll take a look at it, because you deserve a full-time, 12-month-a-year Lieutenant Governor. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone at Fairfax.
Thanks, Delegate. Next, we have Xavier Warren, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. And let's see if I can I don't know what happened to my video. Let's see. I'm sure I can find him in here somewhere. There we go.
I'm here. Hey, Brian.
Hey, welcome.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. Hello, Fairfax County. Thank you for opening for a moment of silence for the people who lost lives over the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to be here with Fairfax County. I'm actually a proud Arlington County Democrat and part of the committee. I know what we can do as a party. I've lit, drop, and phone bank and donated and served as a election day poll observer and a election day poll greeter with many of you all to make sure that we were able to take back the White House and the Senate as well. I'm Xavier Warren, and I want your vote to be Lieutenant Governor because Virginia is in a COVID crisis. We're in a racial crisis, a climate crisis, and an economic crisis that has caused hundreds of Virginia small businesses to close, thousands of Virginians to lose their jobs, 1 in 3 people to suffer pay cuts, 1 in 4 people to go hungry, women to drop out of the workforce at an 8-time higher rate, many people to lose their homes and apartments due to evictions, 14 of our rural hospitals on the brink of closing. That's 50% of our rural hospitals. And also our government workers up here in Northern Virginia facing the threat of cuts due to, at the federal level, to the oversized debt. See, beyond presiding over the Senate's performing any tie-breaking votes, the Lieutenant Governor actually serves on business committees that focus on generating economic development, advancing entrepreneurship, and also creating jobs. See, I've witnessed firsthand what an economic downturn have done to our communities. I was born and raised in Danville, Pennsylvania County. When textiles shipped their jobs overseas and tobacco started to decline, thousands of Virginians in central and south side of Virginia lost employment. What followed was the education attainment rate dropped. The majority of people fell below the poverty line and the economic infrastructure imploded. I remember people leaving due to lack of financial opportunity. I did as well. I came from a working class family. My mother was a bioanalyst and my father was a maintenance mechanic. And they really wanted my brother and me to go to college. So I went to our historically Black college, Hampton University, for my bachelor's and further my education at Georgetown University for my master's before settling here in Arlington County. I achieved my childhood dream of becoming an NFL sports agent. I also remember my parents always told me, Xavier, never forget where you come from. And a lot of people have been hurting financially before COVID arrived. COVID made it worse. So you look at why people cannot get good housing, quality healthcare, quality education, or insurance. It's because they don't have the financial means to get those things. And so I started another successful business, a federal funding agency that helps exclusively hospitals, schools, local governments, and other nonprofits to secure millions of dollars in education funding, healthcare funding, broadband internet access, and economic development. Over the last year, we have brought in over $18 million from working with members of Congress to do just that. That's the type of leadership I'm going to bring to Lieutenant Governor position. And reason why I want your vote, because I want to be able to support the folks and thousands of Virginians that lost employment due to COVID to get in jobs with livable wages, but also support our small businesses, our small towns and rural areas that losing their main street, and also make Virginia the leader in economic justice, racial justice, and environmental justice as well. I have the experience, hands-on experience of getting millions of dollars in funding to be able to support a healthcare system, education system, broadband internet, and also economic development. And that's the type of leadership I'm going to bring to Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for your time. Please visit xavier4virginia.com to learn more. Also, sign my petition. We're submitting the petitions in tomorrow to get on the ballot. And I wanted to have you all support and wanted to make sure that you all have a say as well and have a seat at the table. So sign my petition and the information is going to be in the chat. Thank you and God bless.
Thanks, Xavier. Thanks for joining us. I think that's it for the candidates that I have here. So we're going to move on to the regular work of the meeting. And just a reminder, since it's been a while since we talked about it, use the Q&A question if you have feature. If you have a question, you can also use that to move and second a motion. You can also click the raise your hand button if you'd like to speak on a topic. And I'm going to lower hands now because we're actually going to move into business. And of course, raise your hand if you would like to speak when we get into the actual business of the meeting. So our first actual business of the meeting is the election for recording secretary. And there we go. Kenny Bledsoe has been nominated. Are there any other nominations for recording secretary? So you could do that by raising your hand or by sending us a Q&A. And I'll give just a moment here. Not seeing any hands raised or questions coming in. I'm going to, and I can't see chat either, but is there a motion to close nominations? I have, it's moved by Gordon Simonette, former chair of Hunter Mill. And I see a hand, Rachel Rice. Would you like to second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'd like to give this opportunity with Kenny as the only candidate to kind of introduce himself to you all. So I'm gonna, if I can find him on the list, I'm gonna allow him to speak to you all for a couple minutes just to say hello. Kenny is the secretary for Hunter Mill. So and the folks in Hunter Mill seem to like him. So I think Kenny has joined us now as a presenter. Go ahead, Kenny.
All right, there we go. Hi, everybody. I sent a written statement. You guys can take a look at that to get a background. I'll keep it short. We've heard a lot of stories about a lot of people who are very impressive tonight. And I know there's other business to get to, and everybody's burned out on Zoom these days. So I encourage you to read the statement I sent around. Beyond that, I'll say thank you so much for the opportunity to serve the committee as the recording secretary. I've very much appreciated the wealth of experience that I've gotten from the past several years as secretary of the Hunter Mill Democrats and being involved with that committee. And I can't really express my gratitude for all the kindness and the encouragement I've received from my home committee, even here with the nominations process. So thanks to Gordon and Rachel for that as well. So I look forward to putting all that experience and energy into my time as an officer with the county committee now. And in the time that I've been active in this committee, we've all done so much to, like our logo says, move Virginia forward. And I really look forward to being part of that and even more progress in the coming months and years with the committee. And I hope I will serve you all well. So thank you again, my fellow Democrats.
Thanks, Kenny, and thanks for stepping up to help. Running for FCDC office is not for everyone, I know, but so with nominations closed, is there a motion to elect Kenny Bledsoe as recording secretary by acclamation? And I have a couple hands raised here.
I move to elect Kenny Bledsoe as recording secretary by acclamation.
Okay, and I think we have a second there from Shamli Huff. I want to say all those in favor, but that's kind of hard to do right now. But everyone's raising their hand right now. I guess if there are, everyone's just doing it. Everyone's raising their hand. Sure, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. If we're getting close to a majority of attendees here already. So thanks everyone for that, and I think we really appreciate that. And Kenny, hopefully you've been taking notes. Okay, I think we can move on then to the whatever's next. What is next? Treasurer's report.
Okay.
And go ahead, Nadia.
All right. So can't quite see it on the screen.
You can't see it on the screen?
Well, I see a big thing on the left that says Treasurer's Report, but you can't see all the numbers, but maybe you can. Anyway, it's the front, the cover page you can. So basically where we are is at the moment, we have $103,000 in the bank, and I'm expecting, we have another $7,000 coming in by credit card this month, and we're going to probably get more with the straw poll. And we don't have that many expenses this month, Plus, we will be able to take back the 7,000 we were holding in reserve for the South County office. So I think we're going to safely say that we can we'll end the year at around 110,000 or more, which is way over what we budgeted, which is amazing given the year we've had. The second page will show you where we are, if you can get to that, Brian, where the district committees are. I've redone all the books today, so if any of the district committees have questions about this, they can ask me for their books. And you can see that the total for the district committees, I know you can't quite see that on there, but the total is that they have about $110,000 in the bank. So we're pretty much about even between district committee and FCDC. So it's been a pretty good year. And if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
It looks like I chopped off. What did I chop off?
Just the total.
Other than the total, the column, there's two columns. One is at the beginning of the the beginning of the budget
Yeah,
year, and the one on the right is the current one,
beginning,
right?
And the one on the right is where we are
Okay.
now.
Okay, yeah, it looks like I chopped off the heading for that too. So, thank you, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank the finance committee for their great work this year during a pandemic or whatever. And we're going to get into that right now, actually, honestly, with the chair's report. So really, the only big, I mean, maybe I'll go back for a second. The only kind of thing that's going on kind of big right now is that we are finishing up with the nominating committees, which are the kind of groups of people that are FCDC members that accept the petitions and the filings from our delegate candidates. The filing deadline for candidates is Thursday for the primary at 5 p.m. So I know we saw Xavier Warren had mentioned he was going to file tomorrow, but we're going to see kind of the rest of candidates file, and hopefully we'll see candidates kind of across the state file. So that's the big thing that's going on right now, just making sure that we have candidates and you know, that they have completed signatures and everything before the filing deadline. That's, I think, my only other comment, other than getting into the budget for this year. So the FCDC budget this year is kind of fairly similar to last year, although we do a couple different things in a pandemic year, in a gubernatorial year versus other years. So we'll see some of that, but we have an estimated starting balance in the budget of 100,000. If you were listening closely to Nadia's presentation as treasurer, we expect probably will be closer to 110,000 at April, as of April 1st, which is good news for the budget for this year. So an FCDC budget year goes from April 1st to March 31st. So it's that's the fiscal year. So we'll go from April 1st, 21 to March 31st, 2022 in this. And what we have laid out here for this budget is expected income of 305,000 and change, and expenses of 307,000 and change, which works out to, as planned, a net loss of $2,500. Which ends us still in really good position at about $100,000 again. And again, that doesn't have an updated starting balance. It's just an old estimated starting balance that we had. This budget, and I'm going to go into the detail of the budget in a moment, and then we can get into questions if we need to. This budget has been recommended, voted by and recommended by the steering committee for FCDC's approval. On the income side of things, if you've seen kind of the full, I just struggled how to show this on a screen with lots of people, and this is kind of what I ended up with, because we don't have the full printed out budget that we usually have for me to hand out to you, but here's what we have for fundraising events, and hopefully I'm not sharing my Okay, there we go. So for fundraising events, we have a slight increase based off of, we had budgeted 89,000 last year and we had done a little bit better than that, and a lot better than that actually. So we have increased our fundraising events, which is primarily driven by the finance committee. We also have done very well with direct mail fundraisers this past year, and I thank everyone for that, because a lot of that comes from FCDC members like you. So thank you for your support, and we'll continue to try to raise money that way. We also raise money some ways through direct contributions, through large donors, through online contributions and such. We haven't done as well with that this year, so we did decrease the budget from last year to this year in that area. And I have kept the sustainers budget the same at 35,000, which is a little, I mean, which is what we had last year. And then there's a couple kind of literally just miscellaneous income categories, which put us from finance committee income at $181,500. We also have in this year, FCDC will reorganize. So at the end of this year, in basically at the beginning of December, we'll or maybe a little bit before then, we'll have a new membership form and people will rejoin FCDC and pay their dues. Then we have district committee meetings where we reorganize and such. You'll hear more about that later, but we do have $75,000 in here budgeted. It's kind of hard to say. I know I've been asked questions about it's kind of hard to know how having associate members is going to change all of this, although in 17-18 we did not have a cap. So I guess we'll see, but I do expect that we will have people continue to rejoin FCDC and pay dues. District assessments are $2,500 per district, which gives us $22,500. There had been some discussion about potentially lowering that just for 1 year, but I think just based off of the discussions that we've had, if there are districts that need help paying for that, I think there are other districts that are willing to help, or we can find other ways to adjust it. So the total there that is budgeted is $22,500, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it would be $2,500 per district if certain districts need assistance. And then there are just other kind of miscellaneous things, which in that category for the proposed budget is just interest. We don't expect to have filing fees for a caucus or things like that in this next biennium. So that puts operational income at $97,700, and then voter contact and election support income is two things. It's kind of just selling bumper stickers and things like that that we do that we have income related to, but it's also contributions from campaigns. We usually ask our House candidates in the coordinated campaign to help pay for some of the things that FCDC does in this year, as we kind of work together to elect the whole Democratic team in Fairfax County. So that puts our and Nadia will have to explain offsetting income, but we don't budget for offsetting income. So our planned income net of fundraising costs is $305,200. And I'm not seeing any questions or hands raised. So I'm just going to move on to expenses. So expenses, we have a couple things that happen under expenses. One, we have the joint campaign, which includes the absentee program that the Bachners have helped us run for years. Although we did it a little bit differently last year with postcards due to the pandemic and due to a lot of people voting absentee. It also includes the budget for sample ballots itself. And it also includes some budgeted money for social media campaigns and direct digital marketing to folks, about $15,000 in there. So we have proposed an increase.
Voter guide, Brian, don't forget the voter guide.
Yeah, and the voter guide. So there's a lot of things under that line item there. The standing committees have submitted budgets, and that line item has been rolled up to $6,400 for the standing committees. and then miscellaneous expenses. I honestly don't remember. There's a category I think that's miscellaneous expenses, but I think there's one other thing that I've added
Mainly
there.
chum, Brian, signs.
Oh,
things
okay.
like that.
That's the other side of that. We pay for the bumper stickers that we sell as fundraisers and such, or give out for visibility. So that is mainly what that budgeted line item is. For operations expenses, we have kind of a number of things in here. One, we have the office, which is kind of a fixed cost. We have a negotiated rent that we are expected to pay next year. We also pay for phone and internet for that office. And then also we have just other equipment, supplies, furniture, things like that for the office that we pay for under that line item. And that's almost $76,000. Staff, we have an executive director as our only staff member. And we have payroll, we have payroll taxes to pay, and then we have, we pay for a payroll system to help do that. And then also, of course, we provide benefits as well, which is primarily healthcare, or reimbursement for healthcare. So that is budgeted for $83,500, which of course is an increase from last year. We also have budgeted in here for technology, hardware and software expenses, which include things like NGP, which we use for a lot of our things, and also for the printer in the FCDC office. That's $26,500. Bank and credit card charges is a weird thing as a line item, because the more money we raise, the larger that number is. The more money we raise online through credit cards, the larger that number is. So we do have a new kind of option, if you've given to FCDC recently, where you can kind of help pay for those credit card charges for us. So, but from accounting purposes, it's kind of hard to say exactly how that works out to budgeting. But we have increased that credit card charge line item to $12,500. And then there are just a couple other things under other, and maybe Nadia can remind me what they are, since she mapped the operations expenses earlier today.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of things like hospitality and insurance that we pay.
Oh, right.
The state. Well, this year we don't have the state
Assessment,
but that was under there last year. So I can't remember exactly everything, but they tended to be little things that we use at the office that we just have to get, like the postage and things like that.
Right. And hospitality, just to fill in folks, is some things for the office, but is also like sending flowers to and such to folks who have had a loved one pass away or things like that. So that puts us at $209,795,000, or well, 209 to almost 210,000 basically for operations expenses, and a total of 307,000 for operations expenses. So if I go back, if I go back to the overall budget, that's how we ended up here with a net income of just a slight loss, basically, cutting into the money that we have already. So I have a hand raised, or I have a couple hands raised. So we can go ahead and go through them. So Marv Rosenberg, or I guess that might be Marv or Sue.
This is Sue. Yeah, I was wondering if we're doing anything with back to school this year, since I think the kids might be going back to school.
There is nothing budgeted in here for back to school. I mean, I guess we can revisit it. I know steering can well, I guess there's a couple different approaches on that, but there is nothing in the budget right now for back to school. Chris Ambrose.
Yeah, my question was actually about the treasurer's report. I guess for probably not even best. I was just if you could clarify, the 7,000 that was in reserve for the South County office, I'm assuming what that is what is left over from the money that was paid in from the campaign that leased the space, plus the contributions from the Mount Vernon committee. After you paid all the bills, that's the balance. Is that what that is?
Minus what we gave back to Mount Vernon, yes.
Correct, but and that was the other thing, because there's still about, I don't know the exact number, I think it's about 3,000 that we didn't get back. And so you still have 7,000 in there. It sounds like FCDC made about a $4,000 profit, but won't you be refunding the 3,000 to Mount Vernon?
Why should we do that?
Well, why would we transfer 3,000 from the Mount Vernon account to the FCDC account?
So I don't want to interrupt the discussion here. I will say, except for I am. I mean, I think the question was answered. And there's nothing kind of in this budget that kind of changes that. So if there's not a discussion about the budget that's germane to the budget or whatever, we can have that at another point in this meeting if we need to. But yeah, that was my understanding of it as well. Thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to, or if there are no other questions, because I don't see any. Oh, here we go. Mike Burke Kirby has raised his hand.
If there are no questions, I'll move the budget.
Oh, thank you, sir. Is there a second? There's a second from Jerry Poe. Is there any other discussion? Okay, if there's no other discussion and if there's no objection, we can, without objection, the budget is approved. Okay, perfect, easy, right? Thank you. I mean, we spent a bit of time on the budget, and we want to make sure that FCDC is in a great financial position as we have the resources to do what we need to do over the next year. So I certainly appreciate you listening to me for a couple minutes about that. And we can now move on to vice chair reports. And I think the first, well, we'll just see where this goes. Okay. Maria Varel, co-vice chair of precinct operations, would like to make a plug for early voting, I think. So, I guess if you all want to be on camera, send me a message before, so I can make you a full panelist. If you don't want to be on video, then I can just have you on audio. It's fine. So kind of up to you, I suppose. But go ahead, Maria.
Hi, guys. How's everybody doing? As we know, early voting, the 45-day early voting is beginning on April 23rd. Will go for the entire month of May and ends on June 4th. And it's going to be at 3 sites. It's going to be at the North County Government Center, at the Fairfax County Government Center, and at the Mount Vernon Government Center. The Precinct Ops Committee met last night, and we're coming up with a plan for all 9 districts to support the 3 sites. And staffing is going to be a big lift this year. So we need a lot of folks to sign up to help out at early voting, more so than maybe you've done in the past. The purpose of our presence at the polls will be to provide a Democratic presence for the Democratic primary and to do volunteer recruitment. So there's going to be sign-up geniuses that will be going out across the county to recruit staffing for all 3 sites for 45 days. Not only think about signing up, but help get the word out that we could use folks to participate. Additionally, there will be 13 satellite offices that will open up on May 29th and go till June 5th. And of course, then we have the primary on June 8th. So heads up, and we look forward to seeing you at one of these sites. Thank you, Brian.
All right, thanks, Maria. Next, we have Amber Beichler. Maybe Beekler. I don't know. I'm messing up last names today.
Beekler.
Okay, so Amber, who is our chair of the LGBTQA+ Standing Committee, you have the floor.
Awesome. Hi. Thank you, Brian. And I'm going to try to be quick. So just especially for new members, my name is Amber Beekler. I'm the chair of the LGBTQ+ Standing Committee. Just want to, introduce myself and also just what we do. As a standing committee, we provide resources and also just a chance for LGBTQ members to be able to voice and to be able to contribute. And as part of that, I want to talk about just the state of LGBTQ rights, both in Virginia and in the US. So a lot has happened in the last year. In last year, General Assembly, we had discrimination protections covered in employment, housing, public accommodations, health coverage, and credit, the first Southern state to do so. Thanks because of that, we were able to get the majority in both houses of the General Assembly. We expanded hate crime laws to expand to cover hate crimes against those under sexual orientation and gender identity. That birth certificates were made easier for people to change their information, such as name and gender marker. And for those who may have been paying attention to this, the Virginia Department of Education, as per a law last year, has released a policy for every school district of how they are supposed to treat transgender students. So now, before the beginning of this next school year, all school districts will have to pass their own policy that's comparable or even more expansive than the VDOE's policy. In this most recent General Assembly, which we're still waiting for some signatures from our governor, we had expansion of confirmatory adoption to be more inclusive of LGBTQ parents and guardians. The first steps to amending the marriage equality, specifically the amendment. Right now, according to Virginia's constitution, marriage is only between a man and woman. This was overturned in Oberfell and probably messed that up in 2015, which is now the law of the land. But if something were to happen, Virginia's precedent says that it does not recognize these LGBTQ marriages. We were waiting confirmation on the LGBTQ panic defense ban. We would be the 9th state in the country to ban the defense for homicide, assault, and other violent crimes on the basis that their victim was LGBTQ. And also, if we were to do so, once again, we would be the first Southern state to do so. Also, unfortunately, a adoption bill was killed in committee that would prohibit adoption agencies with state contracts from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, using religious liberty as a justification for this. And also, there is work being done on protections under Virginia's expanded Medicaid to cover LGBTQ people. Last year in June, the Supreme Court decided that on 3 cases that LGBTQ people cannot be discriminated in employment, the first of its kind at a federal level. Our new president, President Joe Biden, has been reversing Trump's executive orders, including the transgender military bans that is gone. And then right now it is passed in the House, the Equality Act. It was introduced in the Senate. Now it is amending the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to include sexual orientation and gender identity. There's a lot going on, but I focus a lot on policy, but really I want this to talk lead into a conversation within FCDC. So right now the LGBTQ committee is organizing an event next month on April 24th at 5:30 p.m. I have a link that I can share in the chat. It is an LGBTQ+ community roundtable. It's an opportunity for FCDC members to learn and ask questions of LGBTQ+ members. The intent of the event is to open a dialogue, create space where tough, maybe even uncomfortable questions can be asked and answered in an open and honest way. And we want to let you know this is a judgment-free zone. We won't be recording the event, and questions will be anonymous. So folks are able to ask questions. We invite elected officials to attend, but there won't be open time for speaking explicitly for elected officials. But we invite everybody. Once again, this is for FCDC members only, and it's for the benefit of FCDC in general, and to start conversations and allow a space for people to learn where they might feel uncomfortable otherwise. So I'm going to put the link in the description or in the, gosh, I've watched too many videos. I'm going to put a link in the chat for people to follow. So I've probably gone way over. So Brian is probably very upset with me. So I will yield the floor.
I am not upset with you.
Oh, good. Yay.
So thank you. Let me see who's next though. Why I can't, I'm having tech issues today. Okay, so next we have Tina Barczyk, Vice Chair of Finance for FCDC. And Tina, I don't know if I saw a message if you want to be in camera or not or whatever, but I will allow you to talk. Oh no, I can't hear you, Tina. I'm gonna move her over to panelist and see if that helps any. I will say that the primary reason that Tina wants to talk to us though is our FCDC Pick Your Pony straw poll, which is this Sunday, March 28th. And hopefully Tina can get some audio going. I still can't hear you, Tina. I will say, so, I mean, Tina, maybe check your microphone just to make sure you have the right input. And while you're doing that, I will say that we are kind of excited that our straw poll is going to be ranked choice voting. Well, at least for the governor and lieutenant governor races, where we have lots of choices. So we should, it should be very interesting to see kind of what ranked choice voting will get us, as I know some of our members are interested in, well, some of our members want that to be the process where we actually select our nominees. So we're excited about that. That's fairfaxdems.org/straw poll this Sunday at 4 p.m. I'm going to ask Tina to unmute one more time just to see if I can get her in here. Thought I heard something, but maybe it was just my imagination. Okay, well, thanks, Tina, for for everything that you do for FCDC for our fundraising. Thank you very much. I think next we have Janice Yohai, who is our vice chair of voter registration education for FCDC. Janice. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hello Fairfax Gems, both longtime members and new. I'm Janice Yohai, Vice Chair of Voter Registration and Education. Over recent non-COVID times, our committee engaged with hundreds of thousands of voters in person with our literature from our website in multiple languages to all varieties of voters with different needs, including crucial young voters and minorities. from Fairfax and surrounding areas. Our message was clear. We want every citizen to vote in every election. We came to understand multiple types of voters' unique situations and their misunderstandings about voting. Over years of face-to-face interaction, providing answers to questions they didn't even know needed to be asked. And we incorporated this hard-won knowledge into our website. It reached number 3 on a Google search for Fairfax votes in 2019. In 2020, early voting for everyone opened the floodgates, and educating folks about the changing voting regulations and how to make sure their vote got counted was our mission. Masses would need to vote early for the first time or figure out how the absentee ballot process worked for the first time. Having their fears and questions answered was paramount. All this in a COVID environment. Knowing how to minimize voting risks or manage them under surprising conditions is critical, as anything can happen. That's why we are at work 12 months of the year, developing new reasons for people to vote early, as that is the least risky proposition way to vote. At the ready to fight voter suppression as it develops. Recommending changes to early voting location setups or closer to elections, addressing holdups at curbside voting lines, or recommending strategies in face of the Trump-appointed Postmaster General's surprising decisions. Even the upcoming 17-year locusts need to be considered in how they might affect in-person early voting for the primary, or even fears of this onslaught for in-person voting. Virginia is ground zero, by the way. I hope the timing works out in our favor, but hope doesn't negate the need to have a plan. So we are now scheduling voter registration and education training, where we will review how to register to vote online and with paper, and how to cast one's ballot to ensure the vote gets counted, whether it's absentee, early in person, on election day, returned via Dropbox, curbside, or mail. Training sessions will begin in April. Please look for Zoom session postings soon on the FCDC calendar. Certainly knowing the ins and outs of voter registration and how to make sure one's vote gets counted is helpful to us all. So we'll be able to share info with others, learn the status of voting laws for the primary, and refresh our memories. Each of us is in a position to get out the vote by telling just one other like-minded person how to vote in Northern Virginia and having them explain it to their families. Thanks to all FCDC members for their continuing support in our work. And I invite you all to add to our efforts in 2021 and to attend one of our training sessions. Let me conclude with a final thank you to our Democratic-led General Assembly. You have earned your bragging rights. Who would think that the Commonwealth of Virginia would be one of the most progressive states of the South, a bastion of voting rights? Thank you for all you do, and thank you, FCDC.
Thanks, Janice. Next, we have Nora Dell, Chair of the State and Local Affairs Standing Committee. And I like the blue cape picture, so I used it.
I think that's my LinkedIn picture, Brian.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name's Nora. I'm the chair of State and Local Affairs, and welcome to all of our new members. I do just want to put in a quick plug before I get to what the other things I was going to say for coming by the State and Local Affairs Committee. If there's a state or local issue that you'd like to raise with us or discuss or see more about, we'd love to hear it too. So definitely send me an email. Our next meeting is the first Tuesday of April, which I believe is the 6th at 5 p.m. on Zoom, which is also on the FCDC calendar where you can sign up for that. Other than that, at our last meeting, we had a very interesting discussion of the Fairfax County budget. But we have more interesting discussions, I promise, at other meetings. We also have a candidate questionnaire out to our state and local candidates. And so we are really looking forward to getting the results back from the candidates on that on a variety of questions in the month of April and publicizing that to you all. So thank you to everyone who helped work on that on the committee. Coming up as well, we have an event on April 5th, Monday at 7 p.m. It's going to be on redistricting, the redistricting process for 2021. What is it? How does it work? How does it affect us and our delegates? We're going to be joined by Delegate Marcus Simon, who's the chair of the House of Delegates Privileges and Elections Committee. And we're also going to be joined by Dr. Rebecca Green, who is a professor of election law from William and Mary. So we are very excited about that. I'll put the link in the chat again, but I will hope you will join us for that. I'm just looking at my notes to see if I missed anything down here, but I don't think so. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys at our next meeting. If you're interested, we'd love to have you again on the 6th. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Nora. Next, we have Sandra Clausen, chair of the National Affairs Standing Committee. Let me find her so she can speak.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandra Clausen, Chair of National Affairs. I want to inform you and invite you to attend our next forum. It is entitled Reaching for the Hand, Not the Throat. How can we understand and deal more effectively with political adversaries? It is going to be on Thursday, March 8th at 7 p.m. The forum intends to solicit answers as to what are the most useful ways to analyze polarized politics in America and how we can deal humanely and effectively with political adversaries. Our panel of experts and analysts include Justin Frank, former clinical professor of psychiatry at George Washington University Medical Center and author of Trump on the Couch, Dr. Brandy Lee, forensic psychiatrist and violence expert, fellow of the National Institute of Mental Health, faculty member at Yale School of Medicine, and consultant to the World Health Organization. She is also the author of Profile of a Nation, Trump's Mind, America's Soul. Additionally, we will have University Professor of Conflict Resolution and Public Affairs from George Mason University, Professor Richard Rubenstein. He's the author of Resolving Structural Conflicts, How Violent Systems Can Be Transformed. And our final panelist is Solon Simmons, Associate Professor of Peace and Conflict Resolution and sociologist at George Mason University. He's also author of Root Narratives and Conflict Resolution. I will put the link to sign up in the chat. I hope you will all attend and spread the word. I think this should be a very useful and informative forum, and we hope to see you all there. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sandra. Oh, is that can't be all the vice chair's reports, but that's all I have on my slide. I know there's a couple others who wanted to speak, so raise your hand if you haven't. Oh, there's a couple. Okay. Janice, I think you already spoke.
Yes.
Okay. You have your hand raised. I just want to make sure I got through you. That's good. Thanks. Okay. Okay. Holly Hazard, go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. I just want to very quickly let folks know that tomorrow evening, we are going to be hosting a fantastic program with Congressman Don Beyer, Lisa Sales of the Commission for Women, and Eileen Davis, who has been working on the the ERA for many, many years, to talk about what is next for the ERA. As many of you know, hopefully all of you know, the ERA deadline was shut down by a federal court this month, but at the same time, Congress just passed a piece of legislation that would take away the deadline on it. So we're in a state of flux, and there are all kinds of things for activists to do who really want to get this into the Constitution. We're this close and yet so far away. So it'd be great to have a robust discussion at that meeting. It should be exciting. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention is that I will be stepping down as chair of the Women's Rights Committee effective after the meeting tomorrow. in order to protect FCDC and myself from an appearance of a conflict of interest with having someone on the steering committee and also running for office. And we'll be having a vote at the end of that meeting, very quick vote at the end of that meeting to hopefully to elect a new chair of that committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Next is Kelly Hebron, who is chair of the lead district for FCDC, but also chair of the Black Caucus.
Hi, Brian. Thanks, everyone. Welcome to all our new members. Just wanted to let everyone know that the Black Caucus will have their meeting, our monthly meeting this Sunday, March 28th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. While everyone is welcome, we are certainly doing outreach to anyone who identifies as Black, African American, or a person of color. We welcome everyone to our meetings. Please reach out if you have someone in your committee that may not have heard about the organizing of the Black Caucus. Please let them know and put them in touch with me. I'll put my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Kelly. Looks like next I have Reese Glassman from, or SB Glassman from, who's the editor of the Blue View. And I cannot hear you, Reese, if you are talking.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm trying to am I
Oh, do you want to share your video?
Oh, sure.
Okay. If you said that I saw that I missed it, it'll take you a second to move over to so you can share your video. So you probably need to unmute yourself and start your camera. Oh, the joys of Zoom. Reese, you're on mute, and doesn't look like your video is on either. Oh, I can see you now. I just can't hear you.
All right. Hi, everybody.
There we go.
I'm Reese. I am editor of the Blue View, and very excited to have announced that we are looking for someone who's very tech savvy. You do not have to have an editorial background or be an editor or even have an English or journalistic background. We're looking for someone who's tech savvy, who can just upload our stories to the Blue View. And that's all we're asking. So we're asking each of the magisterial district chairs to ask the people in your districts if they would like to be a part of the Blue View. And I have put my email in the chat. I can do it again. So just come join us. We'd love to have you.
Thanks, Reese. And I guess I will just add that the Blue View and most of the FCDC websites are WordPress sites. So if you have any experience with WordPress, well, we can train you regardless if you are interested. But certainly being familiar with WordPress already is also helpful as well. On that note, I'll hand it off to Paul Berry, the Vice Chair of Technology for FCDC.
Hi, everybody. Hello from Reston. Just real quick note on the tech side of things. There's been a lot of very negative, frankly, very nasty messaging, digital media things from some folks on the other side. And after a discussion on Friday with several of our terrific school board candidates, school board members, who are really bearing the brunt of this nastiness, I'm putting together a digital strike force along with Jeff and Michelle, who've been absolutely terrific in pushing back on some of the frankly, some of the lies and some of the really terrible remarks that have been directed towards Democrats. So if you're interested in helping out with that, if you have any interest in spreading the truth about what's actually going on in the school board or with our House of Delegates or the Senate or or anywhere else, please reach out. I will put my contact information in there, and I can tell you more if you have questions. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Paul. I guess I just want to personally echo. I think if you all have been watching on Twitter, or if you've run into these folks or whatever, there is a group that is organizing against the Democratic School Board. So if you are, if you have time, if you're interested in helping to defend our Democratic School Board, please reach out to Paul, and as we kind of put together a strategy on fighting against that and organizing against that. So thank you. I have a couple district chairs with their hands raised, and we're not at announcements, but I will allow them to talk, and we'll see where that goes. Oh.
I can come back later if you want.
Okay. Well, let's get into new business then, and I certainly. I don't in any way. I mean, I certainly appreciate the districts, but it is 9 o'clock and we haven't even gotten to the new business yet. So let's try to do that now. And the first thing is the bylaws change that was put together by the task force that was created for this. So I just want to briefly kind of talk about that. I think I've been to some of the districts and we put this information online. But at our July 2020 meeting, we had a motion to create a task force to talk about this, and also kind of with the context of the creation of the Black Caucus, it seemed like an appropriate time to do this. So this task force was created. I think it had 16 or 17 people on it. At least one person from each of the magisterial districts was here, and just a quick summary of the things that we're talking about from this bylaws change. One, it creates a caucus as a group representing a core or underrepresented constituency. So it's not like our standing committees that are usually organized around issues or causes, but rather that each member of the caucus is kind of part of a community or group in Fairfax County. Each member in the caucus is entitled to their own vote, and you have to be a voting or associate member of FCDC to be a member of a caucus. But I guess I'll just remind you that dues can be waived for anyone who wants to join FCDC but can't pay. Caucuses and standing committees is new, so we're adding this to standing committees in addition to caucuses, that they do events over the year. So at least 6 meetings or events over the course of a year. And then they also have to have members from at least 4 different districts in FCDC over a 12-month period to be considered active. So if they go under 4 districts, they have a year to find new members in other districts to be considered active. And then the change that happens to the composition of steering, the only change that happens to a composition of steering after a whole bunch of changes that the task force talked about, are that in addition to adding caucus chairs to the steering committee, that the standing committee and caucus chairs must be or that their caucuses must be active to have a representative. So again, I'll just mention that you have to basically go through a full year where a caucus or standing committee is not compliant with those rules and not making an effort to fix those things, basically. And they would potentially lose their seat on steering. The second set of proposed changes here, it creates a process where we are changing the process where we can create new caucuses or standing committees. So previously we would have to pass them by the bylaws. So you would have to have a vote, and then you would have to wait 2 months and then have another vote. So this now can be done with a single affirmative vote from steering committee, and then at the next meeting, at the next general meeting, an affirmative vote as well, so that we can do that without kind of taking the full time, the 2 months if necessary. We are also redefining through these bylaws changes the following existing standing committees as caucuses, and that's 50+, the Black Caucus, Labor, LGBTQA+, Veterans and Military Families, and Women's Affairs. And we've done that to align ourselves with the Democratic Party of Virginia in their classification of these groups as caucuses. And then throughout there's just a couple kind of editorial changes where previously the bylaws said standing committees, like a standing committee can be called by its chair, or meeting of that can be called by the chair or by me as FCDC chair, et cetera. So we apply similar treatment to caucuses and standing committees throughout the bylaws through these changes. And then we also clarify that all committees and caucuses are entitled to have a representative attend steering if the chair is not available. So the wording in that section in the bylaws was kind of a little bit weird before, but now it's just, I think, a little bit more clear. So we had posted that, sent that out through the through FCDC email, and I hope if you were interested or if you had trouble sleeping, that you took a chance to look at the full report here with the actual the changes, the revisions to the articles that are proposed to this change. And since this comes through this task force, I think it's already kind of on the floor for consideration. So now, if I may, is there, oh, and I guess I'll just point out that bylaws changes, as I mentioned before, must be adopted at 2 successive regular meetings. Why does it say members? Because I can't type. Meetings. So is there any discussion? And let me see what's going on. I have one hand raised now. Andy Pavord, go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi. I just wanted to make an
Okay.
announcement about our, and I'm sorry if this is out of order, but we,
Okay.
this,
Oh, sorry. So I'll come back to
you
you for the announcement. Okay. I'll put you
Okay,
first
sorry.
on announcements. So I guess I didn't lower your hand earlier. Okay. Is there, I'm not seeing any discussion on the bylaws. Did we have any questions on chat? No. Okay. I guess, oh, no, I'm having hands raised. Okay. Mike for Kirby, go ahead.
Yeah, if there are no questions, I'll move the amendments.
Okay. I've got seconds and such. If you, I'm gonna lower hands if you have a question or put it in QA or kind of raise your hand right now. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and call the question. I have Ed Levine with his hand raised. So go ahead, Ed.
I'm just wondering how many caucuses you expect will be formed over the next year.
I think that's a good question. The only thing that I've specifically heard organization at this time is an Asian caucus, and there was actually a pre-meeting in kind of talking about that. But I would expect additionally that we would also get a Latino caucus to match D-Love in terms of matching up the number of caucuses that we have in DPVA as well locally. But the only one that I've actually heard specifically organizing as of this moment is an Asian caucus for FCDC. So let's go ahead and call the question. Oh, it might be too late, but Reed, go ahead. Okay, seems like that's nothing. Okay, let's go ahead and call the question and submit the vote for the vote on the bylaws changes. Okay, we have most of the people here voting, but go ahead and vote. Last chance to vote here, another 10 seconds or so. Okay, let's go ahead and close the poll. And with 95% in favor and 5% against, the bylaws change in its first reading passes. As a reminder, this will need to be passed again 2 months from now to make those changes permanent. So thank you. Next for consideration, is a resolution from Rose Chu, which also includes that group that is starting to organize as a caucus. That FCDC expresses sympathy to the victims and condemns the March 16th, 2021 Atlanta area shootings. And Rose, I think I'll allow you to speak as bringing it forward. First, if I can find you. I think I've allowed you to speak. Go ahead.
So last night there was a vigil in Annandale for the Atlanta area shootings, and there was a crowd of Asian Americans and allies and a number of elected officials and FCDC members. There was also an open mic, and we heard the voices of Asian American women and high school students, which we don't hear very often. This is a resolution of the newly forming Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI caucus of FCDC. We had our first meeting in a few weeks ago in March. And we also like to thank Sandra Clausen for helping us with the resolution. So whereas these shootings were the latest in the hate crimes against minorities, hate crimes have been surging 150% in 2020, while against Asian Americans, while overall hate crimes had dropped by 7%. There have been thousands of anti-Asian hate crimes nationwide, and most of them have been against Asian women. Locally, in January and February of this year, the Fairfax County Police met with Asian Americans because there were burglaries targeting their businesses in Annandale and Falls Church. Everyone in America should be respected and feel safe. No one should be afraid to walk in their neighborhood, afraid that someone will verbally harass them, vandalize their businesses, assault or murder them just because of their race or ethnicity. Therefore, be it resolved, we express sympathy to the victims and condemn the shootings. We want to ensure that Fairfax County is welcoming and safe for all communities, including Asian American community. And we commend, there's a website, Virginia State, nohateva.com, and it's focusing on and helping victims and witnesses of the rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. And we also want to thank the president and the vice president. Vice President Kamala Harris is the first African American and Asian American vice president, and they met with Asian and Pacific Islander leaders in the Atlanta, Georgia area right after these shootings. So that's the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Rose. And I think you, in bringing it forward, you have moved it. And so I think we can ask for a second then. And we have a second from Sandra Clausen. Is there any other discussion? I did see a comment in here about, or a question in here about expressing our condolences to the folks in Boulder as well. I mean, this resolution was specifically written in, over the last week or so with regard to the Asian community and Asian hate, and I don't think it. Personally, I don't think it makes sense to dilute that, even though we did have a tragedy yesterday in Boulder. But anyway, I digress. Are there any kind of questions, or I guess I do have a couple hands raised. So let me go down the list. I have Kimberly Adams first. Although Kimberly, I don't know if this is related or related to something else. Okay, not hearing anything. I have Larry Elipoulos. Larry, go ahead.
Okay, I've unmuted, I think. I want to take a look at the word welcoming. And I just want to mention that my church recently had a discussion about the difference between welcoming and inviting. We are known as a welcoming church, but some have raised the question whether or not just being welcoming is really sufficient. And should we, in fact, be reaching out, being an inviting church? And so I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that in this context, but I want to just raise the question, see if it strikes anybody else. Welcoming is kind of a passive approach, whereas inviting implies some activism. And so I'd be interested in others' thoughts on how far we want to go with this in terms of being active or passive.
Okay, thanks, Larry. I think it's an interesting question. But
I'm happy to change it to and add inviting.
I always, I mean, I don't have, and then now I have people in the chat saying inviting in, welcoming, whatever. I don't personally have an objection if we want to kind of say inviting and welcoming community, or is inviting, comma, welcoming, comma, and safe for all communities. And maybe we can leave it at that, but I hate getting caught up in kind of the minutia of some of the words when we have the big picture of what we're trying to do here. But it is an interesting, the phrasing and choice of words is always important. So I understand.
Okay, well, Brian, can you still hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I think words are important. And if we are going to make a change from the original proposal to include inviting, it does suggest that we are going to be more proactive. So unless people are willing to be more proactive, I wouldn't suggest putting that word in there. So it's not a little thing. People will look at that, particularly the Asian American community. They will look at that, and that will develop certain expectations about what we will do.
Okay. Well, I have made the suggested change. If there's no objection to that amendment to the resolution, or if there is an objection to that change, please make it known now. And seeing no objection, the resolution therefore is amended, and we can continue consideration of it. I have a hand raised, Shamli.
I think you've actually answered the question. I actually like both of them being in there, but I did want to make it clear that, we're already here in the community, and inviting does sound like you're, allowing us in. But I thank you very much for the point that we have to live up to these words in making the committee inviting and welcoming for everyone. That's it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I have another hand raised. Pat McAloon, go ahead. I can't hear you if you're speaking, Pat.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Number 2 says Fairfax County. Doesn't say Fairfax County Democratic Committee. So I have a feeling that people are reading it as FCDC. That's all I have to say.
Okay, that's a point of clarification. I do think we want Fairfax County as a community to be welcoming, and I think that FCDC, we're saying FCDC is committing to help ensure that that is true. But by this resolution, not seeing any other. Oh, Nellie wants to say something. Let's see if I can find her. Go ahead, Nellie. Nellie Samiengo is
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nelly Samaniego, President of the Diversity Committee. For the new members, I want to tell our mission is to reach out to inform and mobilize the minority community that are represented in the area. We believe that an informed community engaged civically and politically. Our goal is to bring this message to the community and get them ready to vote. 2020 has been a very difficult year for community of color, especially Black, Latino, and AAP community. Yesterday, it was a very sad and honor to be with our elected official candidates, friends, and diversity members. We gathering at the vigil supporting the Korean community. The diversity community has worked shoulder to shoulder with so many in our Asian community. I have the privilege to get to know so many volunteers, political and community leaders, and cultivate great friendship, respect, and brotherhood. In this moment of pain and sadness, my thoughts and heart go to the families. And also I want to tell you that we are working so hard with all the Asian American community. I know they're creating a caucus, but I wanted to let you know we work so hard. We reach out all the communities because I believe in unity and inclusion. And I'm like a mom, but I would like to be the umbrella of this community, of the next diversity president. Will be the umbrella for those caucus because we dedicate our time. We are very passionate doing our work. We don't, even in Corona time, we go and reach out those communities because this is our mission. This is our purpose. We work in unity because I believe in unity is diversity. More united we are more strong because we have to give visibility to our Fairfax. We have to work together because if people, when I can tell you by experience, 6 years being the chair of the diversity, coming to those community, to the Asian community, to the Korean community, the Vietnamese community, to the Arab community, when you come in groups, when you come as a diversity, you show the respect. I'm Latina, but I don't in favor of the Latino caucus because when I go to my community, as a Nelly Samaniego, they go, oh, it's another of the group. But when I go with my friends, my members from different ethnicity group, I'm strong and they respect me. By the way, yesterday, we were as a unity, as a diversity committee with volunteers. We show our respect. The media interviewed us, and also one of the pre-media is going to release a press release from the diversity community because they were surprised. They say, how do Latinos and Black people are coming together? Because we believe in unity. Unity makes us strong. But thank you, Brian, for listening to me.
All right, thanks, Nelly. I don't have any other hand raised, so I think we can call the question. And Jack, if you're there, just to clarify, we are already voted on caucuses. This is voting on a resolution to express sympathy to the victims and condemning the March 16th, 2021 Atlanta area shootings. Okay, and the last call for votes, another 10 seconds or so. Okay, we'll go ahead and close voting. It passed with 99% versus 2 no votes with 1%. So thank you so much to Rose and to Shamli and to those who had helped us put together that resolution and for kind of keeping us on that. There was a question in the chat, and Nelly, I don't know if you can answer. When is the next diversity committee meeting? Because we didn't get a report.
Then I will send you the time and the day, because we have so many events to cover, because we're going to organize, we're going to celebrate. I have an invitation for the Society of Richmond on Asian. We're going to celebrate the Asian Heritage Month, and I will send you all
But
the
is there a meeting that you have scheduled soon, or will it just be
yeah,
added
I
to the
will.
calendar?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, next
Okay.
month I will. Yeah, and also I going to release the pre-media that they're going to do for the diversity. I will share with all the members.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I before this meeting, I was given another resolution for us to consider. So let me share my screen again. And this resolution was brought forward by Matt Bell, a resolution to reinstate the penny for affordable housing in Fairfax County. And if I can find Matt, I will give him the floor.
Hi, good evening, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I know we usually pass phenomenal federal resolutions by Sandra's committee. Here's a local one. I've sat on the Fairfax County Redevelopment Housing Authority for 6 years. I'm on their finance committee, and we have a massive issue in Fairfax County where we have, and Brian can either post or put together the full resolution for you, but we have over 15,000 shortage of housing units for seniors and affordable units. And Congressman Connolly, when he was then chairman of the board, Connolly put forward a 1 penny from the tax rate to support affordable housing. Unfortunately, that was cut due to the recession about a decade ago. But since then, many members of the current board, union members, nonprofits, and others have supported it. In 2016, there was a task force, and then they said we need to have 15,000 units over the next 15 years in order to project what the county needs due to job and population growth. This task force that had school board members on it in 2019 recommended an additional penny. This resolution actually just recommends that it brings it back to the rate that Jerry Connolly and the board in 2006 passed, which would be just half a penny, which would be a total of a penny. It's so important that we, as Democrats, support those in need, those that are seniors. The wait list for senior housing has only been increasing, and it will only increase over the next decade here in Fairfax County. I think that any effort from the committee to support those that are less fortunate is very helpful. This is something that Chairman Jeff McKay, James Walkinshaw, Penny Gross, and others have been on record for supporting in the past. And definitely support from this committee would go a long way in making sure we bridge that affordable housing gap. If anyone has any questions or a second, would love to hear that. And
we had a second from George Becerra. And I know Sandra Clausen has put in chat, we're assuming that we can make formatting corrections, which we will always do. And just a note, so we do post the resolutions that we adopt now on the FCDC website. So we will make sure that those things are resolved before we get there. But let's get into, now that we have a motion in a second, let's get into discussion on this. I will open the floor to discussion. I see Barbara Allen has her hand raised. I think she had her hand raised before this was made, so I don't know if this is germane to the discussion here, but I'll give you the floor temporarily, Barbara. You might need to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
Okay, is that unmuted?
Yes. Did you have a question? Did you have a question about this
Brian,
resolution?
no,
or
I
did you have
didn't have
something
a
else?
question. I've just been very carefully listening. So that's, just go ahead.
Okay, but did you want to make a comment after we're done with this, or?
No, this is,
Okay.
I'd
Okay.
rather just listen.
Okay, thank you. It looks like Morgan Jameson is next. Go ahead, Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I myself and many other members of FCDC who serve on the Fairfax County Community Action Advisory Board and those in the human services world know, the actual number was 50,000 units needed in the next 15 years. And the committee that was set up to discuss this decided not to use the tactics of negotiation, asking for more than you need. Instead, they settled for less than a third of what they need. So, you know, we really do need 50,000 units in the next 15 years. Instead, they asked the county for 15,000 units because that's what they thought the county might be willing to do. So I would actually like to try to strengthen this in the future, not at this point, to say we need to be proactive and not reactive to cover those most vulnerable in our community and make sure that we're addressing adequate needs. That's all I wanted to state was a correction of the record there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. Looks like next I have Ed Levine. Go ahead, Ed.
I think this is a wonderful resolution, but I just want to know whether the intent is to allow a tax increase if necessary, or if it's to encourage a rejiggering of the county budget.
Yeah, I can respond, Brian, if I'm still.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so this year, this will have nothing on increasing or decreasing your taxes, because this year, due to the assessment, your taxes, the county average was a 5% increase on assessment. I know mine here in the Huntington area of Alexandria is 9%. So you're going to see an increase of the taxes, and they're discussing whether to decrease the proposed real estate assessment tax rate by 1 penny. So this would actually still be a decrease of half a penny. And if you do that on a $400,000 home or condo, that's literally about $1 increase on your taxes. So this would have a very, 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 very minimal increase on your taxes, but a huge half a penny would provide more than $14 million to the Fairfax County Housing Authority, which is currently operating a negative budget of millions of dollars. And to Morgan's point, definitely we need more than probably even this, but I hope that folks will support this because this is a start.
Thanks for your clarification, Matt. There was a question in chat that says, was this brought to state and local committee? Is it recommended by the committee? This was kind of, my understanding came together today and was not brought forward to those committees prior to this time.
I can answer that as well. I've been communicating with Nora. This was something that has come up within the last week. Spent an hour plus directly with the finance director of the county today, talking about this, getting details. It came before my board last week. So definitely I've already told Nora that we'd discuss it, after the fact. But again, the Fairfax County budget is determined next month in April. And as I said, there's been nonprofits, unions, current board members that support this. So any support from this committee would be extremely helpful.
Okay. Since Nora was invoked as the chair of the state and local committee, I'll allow her to speak next.
Thanks, Brian. I know that the timing on this seems to have been pretty bad in regards to our meeting earlier in the month. But I just want to put in a plug that if anyone has a resolution in the future that deals with local affairs, to definitely bring it by our committee first so that we can debate all these things. We did happen to discuss the Fairfax County budget at our last meeting, and I think maybe one of my committee members is on and can correct me, but I believe that the 1 penny increase did come up and that we would be in support of it. But if someone else is on and wants to add to that, I'm trying to locate my notes from that. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nora. Oh, I thought I just had someone pop up. Last hand I have up right now is Jerry Poe. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I just want to mention that it's only within the last month that the American Rescue Plan Act has been voted upon in Congress, and coming into our county will be $223 million additional dollars that were never entered into the draft budget from the county executive. So we have an addition of 4 pennies worth that will become available this year for reallocation into our budget priorities. So I don't think anybody should worry about where would we get the money. The money is actually there, and I think the need is enormous. The very fact that we have raised real estate valuation rates is an indication of additional stress on the most affordable aspects of housing in our community. While some people are, have higher property value, there are other people in the lower and middle income brackets. Their home prices have gone up, but the rental properties are going up as well. So we really need this. And $50,000 is this, 50,000 new units is the start. We also have to preserve all of our existing affordable housing, and that won't be known until the board reviews next month at their housing committee meeting.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And David Kochendorfer had his hand raised before and is up, hand is raised again. So go ahead.
Yeah, my question is will any of this funding support the working homeless? Out here in Chantilly, we've seemed to have seen a growth in people standing on the roadsides at stoplights begging for money. So, but I know some of them work. I've talked to them, part-time jobs.
I mean, yeah, I don't think the resolution specifically kind of talks about that. I mean, we do talk about affordable housing. I mean, and of course, more affordable housing may make it less likely that people are homeless. But Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that there's anything other than that specifically is invoked in this.
So it will indirectly and also directly affect it. The Office to Prevent Homelessness is under the Fairfax County Housing and Community Development budget, which is this budget that I'm mentioning. So yes, it would help that. And then also there's a bunch of programs that help move folks from homelessness, whether they're veterans, whether they're disabled, whether they're just homeless due to various different issues, into both temporary housing and then permanent affordable housing.
Okay. And I was going to say, I don't think we have any other hands, but there is one hand raised. Oop. Or I thought it was. Okay. Not seeing any other hands raised. Let's go ahead and call the vote on this. And I think, Jack, you have a poll for us. It's my unmute, but last call for votes. Okay, and we'll close voting. And the resolution passes 90% to 10%. So thank you all for your discussion on that. I think it was interesting. And of course, affordable housing is a huge issue in our county. Is there any other new business? I'm kind of shrinking. I'm going to lower hands to say, is there any other new business before we get to announcements? Sandra, do you have new business?
Yes, I wrote this in the chat, but I wanted again to emphasize it to everybody here. Typically, the process of submitting a resolution out of a committee or any other source that will ensure it most likely gets ratified and that edits are made before it gets to the full committee is to submit the resolution to the steering committee prior to submitting it to the full committee. If it goes to steering, the steering committee then can offer their edits and review it, and then they can vote to recommend it to the full committee. This actually ends up getting edits made ahead of time. And typically when that happens and the steering committee votes to recommend to the full committee after their review and edits, the likelihood of resolutions passing is typically more likely, and also saves everybody time from trying to edit from the floor. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. It's a better process. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Not seeing any other hands raised for new business. We can move into announcements. Oops. I don't know what I did there. There we go. And actually, I need to recognize Andy and Saddam first, as they tried to speak earlier. So I will recognize the co-chairs of Providence first for announcements.
Hey, everyone. I think if you can hear me, this is Saddam, the co-chair for Providence. I just want to make a quick announcement about our event on Thursday, March 25th. It's the VA New American Immigrant Voter Roundtable with former Congressman Tom Perriello and group of individuals that are doing a lot of things for the immigrant community. This is a roundtable discussion of issues that motivate today's Latino, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, and African immigrant and refugee voters. So we just want to make sure you guys are aware. It is up on the FCDC calendar, and I'll go ahead and put something on the chat as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Did Andy have something else, or was it the same thing?
It was the same thing.
Okay. And if you don't know, the FCDC calendar, fairfaxdemocrats.org, it's basically the place to go to find out when our next committee meetings are and such. If you're interested in being involved in one of the standing committees or one of the great events that one of our committees putting on, that's the place to go to find them. Next, we have Maggie Godbold. Go ahead, Maggie.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. Hey, everybody. I just wanted to let everyone know that the campaign kickoff for Dan Helmer running in House District 40 is going to be next Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. And this is a fundraiser and a kickoff. Obviously, if you can contribute a few dollars, that's great. But he really would like to just have a lot of people there. So if you can't contribute, go on and go to the link, and you have a place you can contact Amelia, his fundraiser, and we can get you the link so that you can dial in. His special guest will be Eileen Fillicorn, so it should be a really good Zoom. And I just want everybody to come. The event is on the FCDC calendar, but I'll also put the NGP link or the Act Blue link into the chat. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks, Maggie. I guess I will remind you that we will get, or remind everyone that at the end of the filing deadline, if candidates are certified or whatever, they will be their nominees, and we can officially start supporting them. So, we're going to see a lot of that over the next kind of week or two if there are Democrats that are running that are not opposed. Okay, Rachel Rifkin, chair of Mason, go ahead.
Well, this is an announcement for the 11th District Democratic Committee.
Okay, well, also, you're the treasurer of the 11th Congressional District
Yeah,
Committee.
I am. Bob Haley, who is the chair of the 11th District, asked me to announce our 21st annual John Sturdivant Virtual Awards Brunch, where we honor labor and community service in the 3 jurisdictions of the 11th District, Prince William County, Fairfax City, and Fairfax County. It will be on April the 25th at 11 a.m. And Jerry Connolly will be, Congressman Jerry Connolly will be our special guest along with some other elected officials. And I will post the link to RSVP in the chat. That's it.
Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
And the last but not least hand raised is Aaron Yohai, who is also the chair of the Braddock District Committee, and among other things as well.
Thank you, Brian. I hope everyone can hear me. I know that we're almost at 2.5 hours in this meeting, so that also means that the most diehard Democrats are with us at the moment. Well, we want the most diehard Democrats at Braddock's annual Derby Day fundraiser, the biggest that we have every year, this coming May 1st. We're expecting great turnout of our statewide candidates for office, where we will hear from them and be able to celebrate all that we have in store in the Commonwealth of Virginia this year, as well as hearing from some great Fairfax County elected officials. This is going to be a fully catered event where we don't want to spare any expense. We're really excited to try out this new format. So I hope to see many of you at Braddock's Derby Day event this May 1st. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. And not with any, or not seeing any other hands raised or for additional announcements, I think that leaves us at adjournment. So that there being no further business before this committee, we are adjourned. Our next meeting is May 25th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. and will be a virtual meeting. As we get into the end of the year, we might be able to start having virtual meetings or in-person meetings, or probably hybrid meetings where people can attend either virtually or in person, depending on how they feel. And we look forward to seeing you at those meetings later this year. But our next meeting for FCDC will be virtual, May 25th, 2021. Thank you all for joining us and for sticking around with us for many hours. And we look forward to seeing you again soon or at one of our standing committees. Thank you so much for everything you do for FCDC and for and for Democratic to get Democratic candidates elected in Fairfax County and across the nation. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.